Rising from beneath the waves, a silent predator suddenly strikes. For almost a century, submarines have patrolled the world's oceans. Their missions, even their construction, cloaked in secrecy. Now, we'll take you where cameras have never been allowed before, to witness the incredible birth of a modern nuclear submarine. About to embark on a potentially dangerous mission, this is the story of the most complex military machine of the 20th century, a superstructure called Seawolf.
Hi, this is Ken McCarthy, and we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of the System Seminar, and that seminar started in 2002, 20 years ago, and I stopped giving the live events to the general public in 2011, but I've continued to do training and consulting behind closed doors for my System Club members only. And today I'm going to give you a little taste of what you're missing. If you're wondering where all the innovation has gone in internet marketing, it's still going on. You're just not hearing about it. So we've got a guest today. You're going to hear the first third of the interview. The rest of it's for System Club members only, but it's going to give you the flavor of the kind of things that, frankly, you're missing. Welcome to the System Club Masterclass. This is where we talk to interesting people from the internet marketing world, the business world, and other worlds to get ideas on how we can do things better. And in this case, we're talking with a multi-dimensional guy. He started out in life as a nuclear submarine engineer, not a job for lightweights. And then he found the internet marketing world and was a master of SEO, and now he is a master of marketing automation. He is a hard guy to get time with, and I wangled it for you. So take advantage. Here we go. Hi, I'm Ken McCarthy, and today we're here with Troy Broussard. Troy, how are you?
Good, man. Good. I got to tell you, though, Ken, right off the top, man, I'm just going to lay it to you. It's square on you. This shows you how high of esteem that I hold you in, because I have in my hands with me a brand new MacBook Pro with the M1 Max processor, and I am a 51-year-old nerd, so this is like Christmas came early for me, and it literally arrived 3 minutes before this interview. So the fact that I didn't come up with a late, oh, Ken, I can't make it on the call excuse, it shows you how much I respect you, man.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I think our listeners are going to really appreciate it too, because this is really important information. We're going to be talking about the deliverability of email, which is a topic that very few people think about, very few people know about, and I don't know anybody that knows it better than Troy. I want to talk a little bit about some of the projects that he's doing so you understand. First of all, for people that don't know Troy, he got his start in working life as a nuclear submarine engineer. So when people say this is not rocket science, well, to do this right, you kind of need that kind of brain on the delivery side, and luckily we've got Troy with us. Two, he's working on some really earth-shattering, earth-changing tools for entrepreneurs and people and activists, people that want to get things done in the world. One is called Social Layer. That's sociallayer.io. Everybody knows that social media is powerful. The problem is we don't control it. And we, as many people have learned to their bitter experience, somebody can push a button and erase years and years of your work. We should all have our own social media platforms, and that's what Social Layer is all about, sociallayer.io. Check it out. Second thing is email platforms. There's a lot of them out there. Check into berserkermail.com. This is the one that Troy has developed with his colleague and partner, Ben Settle. And between Troy and Ben, you're not going to get higher up the email tree than those two fellows, and you might want to look at what they're doing. All right, so before we talk about the deliverability, I want to do a 90-second course on email marketing. Number one, do it. It's infinitely superior to anything else you can do that I know of, except maybe physical direct mail. Two, solo mailings are what works. Don't send, a hodgepodge of random stuff and think you're going to accomplish anything. One arrow, one target. That's how it works. Last bit, the from line, super important. Make sure people recognize and resonate who is in the from line. Don't send it from Mary Smith, Assistant Vice President of Consumer Advocacy, okay? If they don't know who Mary Smith is. Make sure they recognize who that front line is from. Subject line, really important. life and death, the difference between a $0 sale and a $1 million sale. Literally, I'm pretty good at subject lines. Ben Settle is pretty good at subject lines. Follow us. You'll learn how to write subject lines. And remember, you're trying to get it opened, read, and acted upon. Those are the three things you're going for. However, if they never get the email, it's game over right out of the chute. So this is, again, this is a somewhat technical topic, but it is comprehensible, and we've got the guy to explain it to us. And we even have an interesting case study to maybe lead off. Do you want to lead off with the case study that we're looking at?
Yeah. First of all, I want to give him just a little bit of a background of just a mindset. And perhaps maybe why I'm qualified to even talk about this. First of all, although you've kind of put me into an email specialist as far as the technical side of things, I have gained that skill over the last 10 years or so with all of the consulting I've done for some of the top marketers out there. And, that it has always been kind of my back-end gig, but there are other people more qualified on the email deliverability. So what I don't really claim that to be my number one specialty. My real specialty is marketing automation, and that is something that I've specialized for over 2 decades at this point. And so software development and SaaS products, that's what I really specialize in. But when we launched Berserker Mail, I needed to go even deeper with email deliverability. And so it's very, very top of mind for me. And I've done a tremendous amount of research on it and practical studies with our own platform that sent millions of emails at this point as well, and kind of understanding things at this point. But what's really key that I wanted to give people the understanding is, in my background, I used to run an SEO company, a multi-million-dollar SEO company back around 2007, 2008. And one of the things about SEO, the way that you could get good at SEO is if you learned how to think like Google. You had to understand what they wanted in order to get things to rank properly. You really had to kind of step out of your own mindset and kind of put yourself in their perspective and be able to turn things around and really understand what they were looking to do in order to kind of backwards or reverse engineer their algorithm and be able to get your sites to rank. And so that was my specialty for many years back in like 2008 to 2012 range. And so the same kind of mindset really, really applies to email deliverability. I want to say that there is a projection where you have to really think what they're trying to achieve on their end, and then think how and it's not about gaming the system. It's about how you can work within the rules, right? You're driving down a highway and practically, and I'm just going to say Google for this conversation today because 70% of all email is going through Gmail at this point. So, I'm going to just refer to that. But the same exact stuff applies to Yahoo and Hotmail and, everything else under the sun as well. But just to not keep reiterating, I'm just going to refer to Gmail. Okay. But you're driving down this road and the lines painted on the road are painted by Google. So you have to understand how to play within the sandbox. Otherwise, you get booted out of the sandbox. And that's really what the mindset I wanted to kind of set up for the call today. Does that make sense, Ken?
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Great framing and orientation for us.
Yeah. So, when we talk about deliverability, before I set the case study, I just want to set kind of what deliverability really means and who controls it. Because there's a lot of illusions about if you switch a platform, the platform is going to guarantee your deliverability. It doesn't work that way. Several years ago, I would say maybe 10 years ago, you could control the deliverability by the platform at about a 70-75% level, meaning that if you switched from one email service provider to another email service provider, they were about 75% responsible for your email hitting the inbox. Today, that number's about 40% on the email service provider, and these are rough. There's again, this is not something that is written in stone anywhere, but just as a rough guide, you yourself are about 60% responsible for whether your email falls in the inbox. And there's a lot of things that go into this, and we'll talk more and more about them. But at a high level, at the highest level, it's not only your send from, but your domain that you're sending from. Your domain has a reputation associated with it, independent from the email service provider. So just hypothetically, if you're sending through Aweber and you switch to our berserkermail.com, a part of the deliverability that you've had on Aweber is dependent upon that domain name that you're using. And if you've got a brand new domain name that you purchased and it happened to be on a shared IP on some, GoDaddy account that had like porn sites on the same IP or something, and your domain name has some really negative history associated with it, that is going to affect your deliverability independent of how well email is delivered by Aweber or Berserker Mail. So part of it is just the domain name yourself. And there's some tools that you can use to check that and make sure there aren't blacklists and things for your domain. But that's one aspect that's totally outside of the service provider's control, right? You bring your domain to me, you're bringing your garbage with, right? There's nothing I can do to put it in the inbox if it's got garbage attached to it. So that's one part of it. And the other part is your email practices. Now, that's a big umbrella. There's a lot that falls under email practices. But part of that is how frequently you email, what the quality of your list looks like. And there's all kinds of spam traps and bots and seed accounts and unconfirmed or undeliverable emails and malformed emails. And the list goes on and on. So that is something that if you're not paying close attention to what we call the list hygiene, right? If you're not brushing the list and flossing the list and taking care of the good stuff on it, then what's going to happen is even if you have a great reputation on your domain and you have a great deliverability from our platform or whatever one you're using, you're still going to have issues because you're sending emails to spam traps and bots, and none of the service providers like that. So at a really top level, and again, I can go hours on depth here, but at a very high level, these are the three primary things that affect your deliverability: your domain name and its reputation, your particular email practices, which is not just list hygiene, but how frequently you email and how many spam complaints you get and all kinds of things like that, right? And then lastly, it's the deliverability of the platform itself. And I would say in those ways that the top two are split about equally. It's about 30%, 30% in terms of list hygiene versus your domain name reputation. And then the last 60% or 40% is really on the platform itself. So as you can see, Ken, there's a lot of complexity to addressing this. And, when people just switch platforms, like they change their underwear every week, they change to another email platform thinking they're going to get deliverability that's improved, but they've got a trashy domain name or they have lousy email quality on their list or bad email practices, nothing's really likely to change.
Gotcha. Let me ask you a question about the undeliverables, because everybody has addresses on their list that are undeliverable. Like nothing can deliver them because the account's gone or the address is malformed. That's a whole topic unto itself. But what can people do about that? How should they proceed with eliminating the undeliverables from their list?
Undeliverables are important, but even more important is the spam bots that are on their list, or spam traps and bots and seed accounts. Those are when I send an email, if I send my broadcast out and it has spam traps that it goes to, they're reporting negative reputation back on my domain and my sending reputation, and it's like a hidden spam complaint. Okay? They are flagging your account internally when you're sending to spam traps and bots, and it really does impact a great deal your reputation, probably as much so as spam complaints. And so the reason I changed direction on you is because people don't really realize, I'll just give you a perfect example. And we have a utility that it's very affordable. We charge a minimal for it. But if somebody wants to scrub their list and clean it and see a detailed analysis of every single email and what status it is, if it's verified, if it's a bot or a spam trap, we provide that service. So they can just reach out to me. I'll provide my contact at the end. And if anybody, I'll extend to you and your people the same deal that we do to our internal Berserker Mail users. We just charge a $10 setup and then a penny per email. So it's a really simple formula. But if somebody wants to scrub their list, we can do that for them. And let me just say, we're all family here, so I'll bring you into the family and give you a family price.
It's a huge thing, and I appreciate it, because I know that the cost is trivial, and it's not a profit center for you. It's a service you're doing for your existing customers. And, with physical mail, too, really important. I can't believe the number of people that will mail to a huge physical mailing list without checking to make sure the address, and all that's doable in advance, and it's the cost is trivial. If you.
So let me get back to your question.
Go ahead, please.
I want to make sure, because I don't want to leave people hanging. So the question was about undeliverables. I've reframed it for a second to first talk about the more important, which is the spam traps, the bots, and the seed accounts. What will happen is, we just did a case study last week where a gentleman imported like 25,000 people from his prior platform to our platform, and he had confirmed emails. So he was using double opt-ins, confirmed, the same way we do, the same way Ben does, the same way I recommend people do. And so when he uploaded it to us, he kind of pushed back when I said we require that we have to scrub the list before we can import it. And he's like, well, there's no way I'm going to have any spam traps or any of that stuff. We're double opt-in. And I said, oh, yes, there is. I can guarantee it. And he said, seriously? And I said, check it out. I will tell you right now, give you my word. If we don't find any seed accounts, spam traps, or bots on your list, I will not charge you for the scrub. And I'll still do it, and you'll still get the results. He says, really? You're that confident? I said, I'm 102% confident. And so here's the reason that happens. Let's say that somebody opts into your list, Ken, and they opt in like 3 months ago, and they use a Yahoo account, and it's a valid account. And you do a double confirmed, you send them an email confirmation, they click to confirm, they get your download, they're on your list, blah, blah, blah. Well, now, 2 months later, they decide they're going to use Gmail, and they close down their account. Okay? Here's what happens. Now, first of all, I'm consolidating the timelines. It doesn't happen this quickly. Typically, the account might stay open for a year or so before Yahoo or might just say this is an abandoned account. Okay, so I'm compressing the timelines for the sample. But what happens is that after a period of time, Yahoo will consider it an abandoned account. And what they will do is, rather than shut down the account and let somebody else claim that email address, they get sneaky. And they turn it into a spy account on you. So now they know that this account has zero activity, is not doing anything. It's not clicking, it's not opening, it's not doing anything. It's a dead account. They convert it into a spam trap, and they use it to monitor. If you're still emailing an account that's been dead for 3 years, that is a negative reflection on your email best practices. This is why list scrubbing is so important, because even if you take all the precautions and have a clean double opt-in list, over time, you will develop spam traps and bots and seed accounts on that list. Does that make sense?
Total sense. And the same thing happens in the physical world. People move. They move from one town to another. They have a different address. And if you continue to mail to the wrong address, the twist is you don't get penalized in the physical world, but it sounds like you get penalized in the virtual world for mailing to an undeliverable address.
Yeah, you absolutely do. Like I said, it's almost like an internal spam complaint. It's at that level of severity.
And this kills your reputation.
And it hurts your reputation. Yep. Wow. And so this is getting ever complex, because how do you then, check for these? Well, we have a service that does it. We partnered up with a service that is the only one in 10 years of researching that I found that gives you email accurate statistics. Now, it's never 100%. There are always going to be a few false flags. But most systems, when you go to email scrubbing, I will not recommend any other than ours, because we partnered with the only people on the planet that I trust to do this. And the reason is, everybody else, they'll give you this really lousy guidance, and they'll give you like a red, yellow, green indicator of your list health, and it's very vague, it's non-specific, and they'll tell you everybody in the green is good, everybody in the red, delete, and everybody in the yellow, send them a thing and make them click to re-opt in or whatever. And if you follow the guidance of what most other platforms have you do, you'll end up losing like 30, 40, even as high as 60% of your list. Like they're very non-specific. Their instructions are very generalist. And so you lose a mass amount of your list. Mm-hmm. With our service, we return you the status code and associate it with every single email. So you have the power to say, you know what, all the spam traps I'm deleting, all of these that are catch-all email addresses, I want to send them a confirmation, make sure they're still valid, and that type of stuff, right? So it is important today to do this because what happens is the open rates and clicks are the only thing that you can use to determine if there's engagement on that email. Like, how else can you do it? If somebody buys, I guess they could call in without opening or clicking an email, but that's going to be kind of rare. And, you know, if you have your card integrated, you could do some stuff on that. But generally, the only way you're going to know if an email is engaged is whether they're opening and clicking. And so having some list hygiene in order and maybe checking it, depending on the list size. If you're a big list, I would recommend checking redoing the scrub like every 90 days. That would be for like a list like 25,000 and higher. If you're a medium-sized list, which I would say maybe 1,000 to 25,000, then I would say maybe every 6 months to scrub it again. And if you're a small list, you could probably go once a year. If you're under 1,000 people on your list, it's not as critical. But it is a practice that you need to factor into your budget of running your business today. Because if you're not paying attention to the quality of your list, that list should be your biggest asset in your business. And keeping it clean and making sure that you're not causing problems with your email should be of top concern, right? So that's my story on that. Now, to get back to
can I just say two quick things? I'm sorry. Unless anybody still feel that they want to be cheap about this, remember, we're essentially delivering this mail for free. You know, you're not having to put stamps on. Spend the penny and figure out whether it's a good address or not. You spend it once a year or once a quarter, depending on the size. Spend the money, please. I'm begging you guys, but do that. The other thing, and this, you and I are aware of this, and maybe we need to bring other people into this because it's kind of shocking. You could actually do better with your list by mailing. Let's say you have a big, undifferentiated, unclean mailing list, and you start removing people on a primitive level that haven't responded in 90 days, let's say. They haven't clicked in 90 days. You might make more money or have more of an impact by erasing and eliminating those people that haven't responded to an email in 90 days than by mailing to your huge gazillion-person list. True or false, or is there more that needs to be said about that?
It could absolutely. It's possible and could definitely be true. You know, all lists are not the same. You know, Ben's list is probably 10 times bigger than mine, but my list is like 92% buyers. I have almost an exclusively buyers only type list. I have a few hundred people that are not buyers, but almost all buyers list. Whereas, you know, that has a big impact, right? You compare, I've outperformed in promotions and stuff. I've outperformed lists that are 10 and 12 and 15 times the size of my list because I have 100% buyers and I have great reputation. Well, not 100%, but close to, and a really strong relationship with my list by mailing daily, right? So there's a lot of things that go into that, but yes, that's absolutely possible. But the list, to me, it's all about the relationship. It's not about the size, it's about the relationship with a list. And most people from a marketing perspective, especially like solo entrepreneurs just getting started and stuff, they tend to have a very egocentric kind of approach to their list. And I almost wish, one of these times I'm going to have to do a recording with Ben about just how non-needy he is about people on his list. Man, he just ruthlessly unsubscribes and kicks people off and takes them off his list. They have to swim upstream pretty hard to even get on his list in the first place, right? Yep. And what that creates is a very, very high quality list. So, you know, when you compare two lists, it's always apples to oranges.
Running your list through a process to see what is actually on your list. Are those real people, or are they spam bots that are digging away at your online reputation? And because the thing that maybe I didn't say this from the get-go is a ISP, an internet service provider, might just decide not to deliver any of your email. Right? It's possible that AOL could say, you know what, we're not going to deliver this.
Yeah.
So these may be, and that's sorry to interrupt, but these may be 10% spam bots, but the other 90% may be paid subscribers, raving fans. But AOL just clicks a switch because of your online reputation that you, as Troy's pointing out to us, you actually control.
Yeah.
Okay, that's about the first third of the interview. If you want to hear the rest and get some of the goodies that Troy was talking about, there's really only one way to do that. Pay him a huge fortune, or you can become a System Club member, and he's actually giving some goodies away to System Club members related to the things we're talking about. And this was just the beginning of the conversation. We went way deeper. Email is still the king, and email delivery is something that is a lot harder than people realize, and it can be the difference between breaking even and being rich, or losing money and doing very, very well. It is not easy to get email delivered, and it's getting harder and harder, and there are solutions, and System Club members and Troy Broussard's clients know what they are.